Hey everybody, this is Ryan Smith and you are watching Secret Chord. In this video, I would like to share with you ways to learn songs fast. As a musician, it is not uncommon that you will need to take in new material very quickly and perform it as though you've been playing for years. This can happen if you're stepping in for somebody in their band or filling in on a gig. It can happen if the band that you're in is just learning a bunch of new material or participating in a tribute show where you need to learn a bunch of songs quickly. If you have a church gig and you need to learn 6 songs in a week, for example, these tips I'm going to give you can help you process that information quicker and perform well. I want to share one potent example that comes to mind. Much earlier in my music career, I was playing bass for Phil Solem of the Rembrandts. On the way to a gig, I got a call saying that Joey Mullen, the guitar player of the legendary band Badfinger, was going to be sitting in at the show, and we would be playing some Badfinger classics with Joey. So I started to panic a little bit because I realized I didn't have very much time to learn these songs. In fact, as soon as I arrived at the club, we had sound check, and Joey would be at the show, sitting in with us on the sound check, and we were going to be playing these songs with him. So I started to feel a lot of pressure. I learned some things that day about learning songs fast, and I've had to apply these things so many times over. So the first thing I want to share with you is start with the macro level. Think about the big picture. What is the key of the song? What is the tempo and the feel of the song? Now, if you are already familiar with the material as a listener, at least, that does give you an advantage because you know the general feel of the song. But if you're not, you need to make those mental notes on these big picture ideas. If you have the ability to write things down, I highly recommend this because at the very least, it's going to help you process the information better, and you can look at this to work on learning the material quickly. Move on to the skeletal structure and the form of the song. Write out, is it verse, chorus, bridge, chorus? Are there solos, interludes? Write these things out so you now have that basic understanding of the map of the song. Then the next step is write out a chord chart if you can. For bass players, guitar players, keyboard players, this is great. Write out the chord structure for each section. Look for patterns and repetitions. Try to notice things like, is every verse the same? Are the verse chords different than the chorus chords? Look for ways to make it as simple to process as you can. Now with the chord chart, at the very least, now you know the structure and you have the basic chords that you could minimally strum the chords or improvise around that. It gives you a real good foundation to work from. After writing out the chord chart, then move on to the micro level. This is where you start to add whatever details you have time to introduce. Start with the most important elements. Are there riffs? Are there melodies that you need to play that are more important than other things? Don't get too wrapped up into the little nuances of a solo. If you can improvise a solo, try to grab the most memorable parts and the most signature elements of that song. That's where you need to start next. Now, as I mentioned about the chart, it can be very helpful to at least have this as an option to bring with you on stage. You need to make sure your chart is very legible and easy to see from a distance. If you've got a Sharpie, use that. Make it something that you can see from 5 feet, 6 feet away. So now that you've got a good chord chart and you've mapped out some of the critical riffs and rhythms, depending on how much time you have, you can add more details. I call this the icing on the cake. This is if you're gonna add any vocal harmonies, the smaller details in the parts, little runs that are happening in the music, then you can start to pick these things up, but they're less critical. You also need to decide if you are going to play the song from memory on stage or use a chart, and then commit to that 100%. You don't want to think that you're going to memorize the song, get on stage and realize you don't know it and fumble your way through it. You would be much better keeping a legible chart on stage that you can at least reference. Now, either way, I would recommend, even if you decide that you're going to have a chart on stage, still try to memorize it as best you can. Because when you're in the moment, when you're on stage, people are watching you, there are a lot of distractions. You want to be able to perform, and you don't want to be so glued to it that you can't enjoy the performance and be part of the musical moment. Okay? So these are the tips that I can give you right now to learn songs quickly. Most of the time, you want to learn songs well and have them internalized before performing them, but that's just not always going to be the case. And I hope you find these tips helpful for those situations. Don't forget, subscribe to Secret Chord for more content like this. Ring the bell for notifications. My friends, I will see you next time.